Hello, welcome back to Food for Life, where the food isn't just for the belly. My name is Jennifer Shepler, and today's topic is put this in your wallet. So first, I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping to remind you that I'm human, I'm normal, or I meant I'm human and I'm not perfect. Normal, I don't know. I guess that's to each person's case. So to remind you again that I'm not a professional, I'm just a professional in my life. And I'm doing videos to hopefully give you a different perspective on your life. So back to what's in your wallet. Have you ever had anybody teach you about finances? Who taught you finances, or did you learn on your own? So I picked up a book called Thorns, Barns, and Oil Jars, and it is an amazing book that is inspired with God's intention on what He wants in our lives rather than what we are expecting to have in our lives. So I went through this book, and even though I understand about money, it was still an epiphany for me because it was a different way of looking at it. So I'm going to start by telling you what my financial situation looked like growing up. So obviously, as a kid, up until 12 years old, you don't really discuss about money. Now, I don't know if other households teach you. I know some people who teach their kids money from the very get-go. And so in my situation, that was not the case. And I moved in several different homes, and I've discovered that none of the homes that I moved in ever taught me about money. The only time I got a little inclination about money was when I was living with my grandparents between 10 and 12, and my grandpa used to do taxes for himself instead of hiring the traditional tax preparer to do the taxes. And I remember thinking, I want to do that. And so I decided to do that, and I did, and it was pretty successful after that. But other than that, there was no budgeting. There was no talk about saving. There was no talk about how to work money in your favor. So I pretty much lived in poverty, and that's lessons in life because I didn't know anything. So my money, okay, so I kind of like to use this book as a reference on how finances in my life were taught to me. So the thorns was a part of me is up until, when I moved out at age 18, I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew you find a job and you pay your bills. And so that's what I did for the majority of my adult life, all through my 20s and all through my 30s. Worked full time, make the money, pay the money. And then, of course, there were times in my life where back then, credit was a big thing, and I had no credit. And I'm like, well, gosh, I can't even rent or anything without having some kind of credit. So I knew I didn't have credit. So I just basically didn't have a credit card because of that reason. So I just basically lived check to check is really what I did. And so to me, in the book, living check to check and not knowing finances was the thorns. And then as I was learning about money in my 40s, I ended up, this is the third time I would end up homeless. And being homeless has everything to do with how you look at money. And so I was struggling really bad. So I decided that I was going to pack up my kids. We were going to go camping in another city so that I could try to make things work because I wanted more money. I just didn't have a life, really. I didn't get to do anything fun. I didn't have boats or toys or anything like that to enjoy life with. So really all I did was work and pay bills. That's what my life was like. And I wanted more. So then I got myself a credit card and we went camping, and I'm like, I'm going to get a job, a better paying job, and then we will camp for the summer so that I can collect that money. And then this is my plan, then I would go and move find us a place, and then I would have some money to be able to pay the rent and all the things that I needed to hook up and still have some money left over so that when I started my job, I would be a little bit ahead of the game. But as usual, when you plan your life, you realize that somebody else is actually leading your life and has a plan for your life. I didn't see that God wanted his will. Right now, it was all about my will. And so I struggled. And so the plan backfired. I never did find a job, and I ended up, persevering through the whole month or through the whole summer, knowing I was going to get that job. And so I used my credit card to pay everything because I had faith that I was going to pay, everything was going to end up working out. And that job never turned out. And I ended up losing deposit money because at the time there was a big scam in Edmonton about, you give your deposit money to them and then they pretend they never saw you. And so I was like, okay, I'm out of money. I'm flat broke. I've maxed out my credit cards. Now what? So God points me back to the town that I left from, and I felt so defeated. So now the thorns in this book continue on because I ended up having to file bankruptcy. However, most people think, oh, that's so bad. Okay, it is bad because it shows that you don't have any money. However, there's a positive side to this. Bankruptcy is what taught me how to manage money. So I was forced to write down everything I spent, how I spent it, where the money was going, and that would be what I would consider the barns because you're learning about money. And so I finally, after 6 years of the bankruptcy, that gave me time to fix my crap. It was time for me to fill up my wallet. And so I decided that I'm going to keep doing this and pay my bills. And now that I've got this budgeting, now I understand budgeting. It also taught me to understand about credit cards and how they work and how they like to rip you off and take money out of your wallet. So that was devastating, but at the same time surprising. But I gained knowledge from that bankruptcy. And so this is where the barns come in this book. And at least that's what I gathered. What you gather out of that book may be completely different, but this is what I gathered. So then the barns. Okay, so then while I'm trying to situate my life, I'm still not making as much money because I'm still putting a lot of money into credit cards and getting my life into gear. And I mean, it's taken me many years to get out of debt from the credit card usage that I use over the years of not understanding credit cards. And I know it may seem like duh to some people, but I'm telling you, if you're not raised around money, you just don't know. It's almost like you don't know how to explain chocolate to somebody if you've never had it. You just don't think about it. Okay, so then I ended up getting out of debt and I paid off my credit cards and my credit score was amazing. So, I mean, I heard people say to me when I went to go buy my car, wow, like you've got out of bankruptcy and got your credit score. I've never seen anybody do that before. So I thought, wow, okay, all I did was pay my bills, but I guess it's the way that I did it according to how the bankruptcy wanted me to do it. So I just listened and did what I was told because I'm used to doing that. And so now as I'm in good credit, okay, and I have my bills paid, I'm still struggling and living off check to check. And there are still things that come up like your car breaks down. Well, I got to use my credit card because I don't have any cash. So although I got into debt and got out of debt, I also reused credit to up my credit score. And so in the meantime, as I'm working to get my credit score better so that I can gain credit if I ever need it, I've learned how to budget money, and I know how to pay off my credit cards, and I know what I should and shouldn't do. That's when I went into books, and I thought, well, one of them is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks a lot about, what to do with your money, how does it make it work, and it was really fascinating information. But unfortunately, when I bought these books, I was in Canada, and those are US books. And Canada and US don't quite work the same together as far as finances. So every time I tried to find something that Robert would talk about in his book, I realized that Canada doesn't offer that. And so that was really discouraging. And so, it's just taken me some time to finally figure out, like, how am I going to get more money? And so I just live life like normal. Pay my bills, get my rent, or pay my bills, get my check, pay the bills, get my check, pay the bills. That's what we all do. And then the oil jars was a chapter in this book that was a real epiphany for me. And I thought that it just finally made sense. And I think it made sense not because of what the words said, was because of where I'm at in my life. So if you go into the Bible and you look into Kings, 2 Kings, that's when it talks about the oil jars. And I'm just going to roughly just kind of explain it quickly to you. So it's about a lady whose husband dies. She's stuck with all the bills and doesn't know what to do with it. And she doesn't want to trade her 2 sons in as slaves so that she can pay her taxes. So she's asking God for help. And so she's led to, with her 2 kids, to go find all the oil jars, empty jars that they can find, so that God can bless them with oil. Now, the intention with this lady is to sell the oil so that she can have money and that she can keep her boys with her. I mean, aren't we glad we live in today's world? So the metaphor in oil jars is basically what happens is, God says to them, did you get all the jars? And they're like, yes, there's nothing left. So as they're bringing jars, God is filling it. And then they're like, I have no more jars. So the oil obviously stops being filled. And that was the aha moment for me. I need to have empty jars for God to bless me. And so a full jar is a jar with debt. So if we can just get rid of our debt, then we will have an empty jar that God can fill and bless us. And so that's what I figured out is like, okay, so that is probably why God this is just a theory, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but this is what I've gathered, that my oil jars have been already full because I've been in debt. So all my extra money just keeps going into that debt. And instead of in my wallet, it goes right out the window. And so when I can get off and pay these debts off, like I'm still working on, and I'm almost debt free, what I'm doing as I'm getting debt free is I'm slowly emptying that oil jar so that God can fill it with his oil. In today's world would be our blessings. And he can keep blessing us if we keep our oil jars ready and empty. And so that was the aha moment for me was, okay, so God put me through bankruptcy. Well, not he did. I did that. But he showed me how to budget money through the bankruptcy. And then I learned, what to do with that money and how it works. And now in this oil jar section of the book, it's like, okay, now I know what to do, how to get my jars empty so that God can overflow with me. And it was just a matter of timing. Now, his timing is perfect. So had I not gone through bankruptcy, I would never have understood the oil jar story in the Bible. And it just occurred to me now because I finally understand finances. So it was God's timing, whether I understood what this book was trying to say. So in a nutshell, I'm here to tell you that most of the world is in debt. And one of the things that we need to do is to get out of debt, because really credit cards and all those liabilities are sucking all the money out of our wallets. And so if we could just live by our means and not more, who cares if your neighbor has a better car than you? Who cares if they have a boat and you don't? Yes, sometimes life can be boring because you can't do anything, but it's better than being in debt and stressed out. So I know what it's like to be in debt and to have credit cards after you, and it's stressful and you just hate life. And it's in the Bible that talks about he doesn't want us in debt. He wants to bless us, but he can't bless us unless we have empty jars. And so that was my takeaway moment with that book. And so I picked out a Proverbs 11:14. I should have finished the sentence by saying I've picked out a scripture. And it says, where there is no guidance, a nation falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. So that's pretty much, now that scripture works in every area in our life, really, financially, stability, as far as emotional stability. So anything like that that goes on in our world can go into this parable and break that down into what's going on in our life. So in my particular situation would be the finances. And so where there is no guidance, a nation falls. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had no guidance with money and I ended up in bankruptcy. But through God's, messages, books, people, stories online, other people's stories about their finances. Those were the ingredients that God brought into my life to help me understand finances, so that by the time I was ready to write my book and do my videos, I'd be debt free. And that would give God ways to bless me, because I've got nothing else tying up my money. And it's the same thing with tithing. A lot of people don't like to tithe at church, but you have to think about it as it's not giving the money to the church. It may look like that. Yes, they use the money to pay their bills, to pay, they have bills too, but it's also to bless God's kingdom, to try to find many people who need him. And so when we put our little bit of money into that basket during church, we're helping God create more help for other people. And so that's why, some people have a tendency of thinking that tithing is a bad thing, but it's really their perspective on money. And they're looking at money in the incorrect way, and that's why they don't want to give. And some people just can't. And I mean, even if you were broke, 50 cents is 50 cents to God. He doesn't judge you by how much you tithe. He's judging the fact that you want to tithe and that you want to help others, and that's all that you have to give. But my goal is to be able to give more. I want to give more. I want to do more. And so my focus is to get out of debt. And so that was the biggest takeaway for me. And then that way, the abundance of counselors will come eventually after I write my book and do other things that they're for the glory of God, which I happen to be just in love with doing, because I never thought I would write a book. But that's his will, and his will he brings it to you, and it just happens to be something that you enjoy doing. And so as long as if I'm doing good works in the favor of God and his will, he will bless me. It promises that in the Bible. I'm looking for the word. I can't find it right now, but so, and the other thing too is I've learned that God is like super omniscient and super, super smart. So he surpasses us as far as the way we think, the way we speak, and the way we do things. And so that's why sometimes when you read the Bible, it doesn't make sense to you, because perhaps one, you're not ready to understand that parable. Or two, you need to find out more information about it so that you can understand it. And so it's taken me that many years to finally understand what this book was all about for me. And so I do see prosperity coming once I get out of debt. And that gives me a lot of hope, and it clears me from a lot of stress. And it also tells me that I am right where I'm supposed to be. And as soon as I get what I need done, what He wants me to do, then He will bless me. So in the meantime, I can get blessings in other natures, but I trust that once I do the work that I'm supposed to do, the blessings will come because I've provided oil jars for God. So I'm going to do a motivational draw for today, and I have chosen Romans 12:11. It says, "Don't hesitate to be enthusiastic. Be on fire in the Spirit as you serve the Lord." That is really, really good. And that's exactly where I'm at. I'm feeling enthusiastic about my future because I know that from the past, my financial situation was detrimental, bad, and stressful. And now that I've woken up and received Jesus and understand who He is, and I found my identity, now I can focus on the things that I never learned about in life. And with His help, I can find the ingredients that I need to take care of my life, and then giving Him the full, I guess I could say, I'm giving Him my open heart to tell me what I need to know so that I can get blessed, because that's what God wants to do for us. And so that's what I've been focusing on. So it was such a good epiphany for me. I had to share that with you. And keep that fire in the soul going. That's what Rosa Parks did on the bus all those years ago. Like, she just had a firm belief that she deserved to sit in front of the bus, and so she stood up and fought for it. And that is fighting for what you want. And so I am fighting for what I want in my finances. And so that means debt free. And I am almost there. And I know that when I'm finished getting debt free and working for what God wants me to do, He will bless me and I'll be so excited. And so nothing that we do is ever in, I guess, another word I can't seem to find. Nothing that we do goes unnoticed, okay? And if you want more blessings, ask Jesus into your life and He will give you more blessings. And you will learn so much more about yourself and about life. And so that's what I hope for you today. And all you got to do is simply just say, Jesus, I believe that you're there. I believe you died and rose to the heavens. I want to follow you. Please help me have a better life. And you're saved. It's that simple. So just ask for His guidance and He will show you. Just like I've been asking God to help me financially, and He throws His book at me, and I am just happen to be at the right place at the right time and the urge to buy this book. And then I discover that God really is waiting to bless me. All I need to do is provide Him those oil jars, the empty oil jars. And once He starts to fill them, you can't stop Him. So I hope for you for a debt-free life. And I hope that this will help you, and maybe purchase that book again. Thorns, Barns, and Oil Jars. It's so good. I haven't even quite finished it yet. I'm almost finished. But I learned so much from this, and I hope that you will too. So until next time, don't forget to click like and subscribe for the next video, and I will see you then. Take care and God bless.